Influencers are saying like, I don't know how to run a business. Maybe I don't really need to. Maybe all I have to do is like find a partner who knows what he's doing, who's had this kind of business before. And if I post and talk about it, then we won't have any problems with demand. You know what I mean? The problem now becomes supply.
You're about to hear a conversation between two agency owners who collectively have over 30 years of experience helping brands sell millions of dollars. Enjoy the episode.
So I have a few things. One is I wanted to talk about, there's this new business trend where people are, I don't know if it's new. I mean, I think it's always happened. People are partnering with like very particular influencers. And it's not just here's X amount of money for X amount of posts. It's more like, you know what? We'd like you to be an investor. We'd like you to have shares in the business. We'd like you to be part of this. Or the other way around. The influencer has such a big audience that he says, you know what? I'm going to build this business. Who can operate it for me? And then I'm the front man, the face of the whole thing. And I'm going to talk about the business and, you know, the fact that it's mine. And I need a partner who can operate it and who can actually run the business, because I'm not good at that. I'm good at like creating the content and being the influencer. So I want to talk about that because I feel like that's something I think we're going to see more and more of. People partnering in a real way, not just like I was saying, not just paying the influencer and that's it. It's like, let's have an equity stake in this business, and this is going to be your business now. And I looked at, there's this guy on Twitter, has about 1 million followers, and he's launched, I think, like 4 or 5 businesses. And they're all businesses of things that he has to do in order to produce that level of content. So one of them does like video, for example, or video editing. The other business does design work, for example. So all these,
it's like a production company. He has multiple, he does his production, but he has like one person who's in charge of making the video, one person that is in charge of doing the graphic design.
I actually think they're separate businesses.
Oh.
So one of them is called Design something. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember. But that business by itself has like a small team, a core team, and they're billing people monthly for a certain amount of content or a certain amount of design pieces, or maybe unlimited. I don't know, but one after the other. The typical model, right? So I don't know, it's $15,000 a month or whatever the number is, right? And so he has that business, which he launched recently, and before that he had a video editing business, and they're all like standalone companies. So they each have their own website, they each have their own team. And basically, like, if you think about it, guy's 1 million followers, right? So let's say 10% visit the site, 90% don't, but 10% visit the site, understand what it's about, etc. That's 100,000 people. And then you know what I mean? Like, then let's create, another 10.
Create 180 approaches a Mr. Big type of celebrity. I mean, Mr. Big.
Yeah, maybe not Mr. Beast, which is like the biggest influencer in the world, but maybe something else. I mean, 1 million followers is a long way, like very distant from Mr. Beast. But let's say he's got 500,000 followers, or 1 million, or 20,000. I mean, it really depends on the numbers, right? And he's in your niche, or maybe he's part of, or she's part of like the community, or maybe you're in tech and she's involved in tech, or whatever it is. You can actually partner, not just pay for posts, but say, look, I'm going to give you 10% of the business. Would you invest? I would still make it like a financial transaction. So they invest, even if it's a low valuation.
That's one of the things that you learn, that it's like, if you want somebody to have skin in the game, you can put some money on it.
Yeah, just so that you're really aligned. Because if you just give them the shares, then maybe it's not the same. That's if you're doing it. But what I'm talking about is the influencers doing it. Like the influencers saying, like, I don't know how to run a business, and I don't need to, but maybe I don't really need to. Maybe all I have to do is like find a partner who knows what he's doing, who's had this kind of business before. And if I post and talk about it, then we won't have any problems with demand. You know what I mean? Like the problem now becomes supply. Like, can the company, grow, maintain quality, and keep the clients, etc. Because this guy, whatever he posts, and it's not just one post, right? These are his companies. He's going to be talking about them constantly. And he'll be, and what I've seen is like, sometimes for example, he'll put a content up, and then at one of the comments within that Twitter thread, it will be like, this was done by this company. And it's a perfect way, because he's actually adding value with the content, and then he's telling you who did it. It's a way to drive traffic to these companies. And so I mean, these guys start companies and like within a month, they're like, okay, this year we're going to do 1.5 million. And the year after, they're like, okay, we're on course to do 5 million. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's just a scale
I
of
understand. I mean, there are two ways that I love this topic because there's a few ways that we can, if you start cutting it in pieces, like so go back to Mr. Beast. He has a restaurant. He has a
yeah.
fast food restaurant. I mean, do you think he is actually there telling the recipe and figuring out and flipping burgers and all that stuff? Maybe for the show that he has to do, but for the rest, there is some sort of, people who work in hospitality who can actually manage their business. Um, I don't know which came before, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if it was somebody said, "Hey, I have an idea for a restaurant. How about you become the face of it? You get 50% of the business. We get 50% of the business. Split half and half. We will need some equity from you, and then get it done." Or if Mr. Beast wanted to have a restaurant all his time, and he pretty much decided to create that. I thought of it that way. I also thought of it of like, well, let's go reverse engineer it. Hey, we're a marketing agency. I know you need marketing. We can start doing your content. You can become investor of my company, and all you have to do is, like you watch a TV show. This person was dressed by so and so boutique, so and so store. So it has that. What I also love about the content is that it is very independent. If I were to sponsor a TV show, I have to go through the paperwork of the TV show. Probably maybe have to go through the channel and all that stuff. This is if I wanted to sponsor something like Good Morning America. Here, I only have to talk to one person and maybe his publicist or agent. But at the same time, I only need to work with that direct, content and say, hey, I what you do, I can do. I can help you do it. I can do it better. How about you invest on us, and then we can take it from there.
I just think and I know this is a touchy subject because a lot of people don't want to give up equity. They've worked really hard. It's my company. Why would I give them equity? They're not operating the business, like, but they're like making sure you have business all year long. They're making sure the business sort of blows up in terms of clients. It's an interesting investment. Like maybe even more so than raising capital and then trying to build out, your marketing engine and trying to get more clients and doing it that way because you're still giving up equity. But in this case, you're saying, okay, well, look, I'll give you equity, you invest. Maybe it's a very low valuation, so the guy doesn't have to put a lot of money down or the woman. Um, but at the end of the day, like you in theory, right, like this could backfire obviously, but you could probably set it to say, in order to gain this equity, maybe you need to do it this long because you're getting a huge discount on the valuation, whatever. I mean, you can structure it any way you want, but I think the idea behind it is pretty cool. I think a lot of small businesses could benefit from something like that. I think you still need to do marketing for the business. I think you still need to do, like, your content. You can still need to like push things. But these people that already have an audience, whether it's on Twitter or an email list or whatever it is, like they can really, sort of drive the business forward, especially if they're a personal brand. I think it's different if it's just like a company, or I'm going to hire this company that has a big newsletter and then I'm just going to pay them. And that's different. But I think if it's a personal brand, I think it's the effect is quite big. So it's just to think about.
No, I love it. I mean, definitely you have to have a huge work on alignment. Again, I run we run a marketing agency, and it's a serious business. If I have somebody who's just being silly or like a prankster or something like that, yeah, I would love them to give us the, hey, this content was produced by Create 180 Design. This is the agency, and that's great. But I need to make sure that there is a clear alignment that whatever this person does not reflect bad on my company. But if it's like somebody you think what this person really matches who I am, and I would love to work with that person directly, and I think I can afford something to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's a great
Yeah, I
concept.
actually think it's interesting. I also saw, this is a long time ago, and I can't remember the sort of like what the company's called, but I saw a company. I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 influencers had built together, and the company was an investment company, and so their pitch is, let us invest, and you don't get one influencer, you get 4 or 5 people who have built personal brands,
Within the realm of
and
investment, right?
right, we'll invest in your company, and then we'll make sure it has all the demand needed.
So they're all in the
Yeah,
realm of finance. or some sort of.
No, no, no. They're like normal influencers online. Like they talk about small businesses and acquisitions and like their maybe taxes. I mean, they're very like sort of centered in their universe of small
But they
business and
are, but they are
entrepreneurship.
entrepreneurs, business people who are okay.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. And so they're saying we've built this company that's an investment arm. It's four of us. The four of us collectively have, I don't know, 10 million people that follow us. Um, if we buy, I think, or invest in your company, we'll make it grow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, I mean, they might buy the whole thing outright, or they might buy 80 to 90% of it, or maybe they'll just invest. But it feels like, okay, that's an interesting investment. Like, it's not just VC money. It's not just I'm raising capital and that's it. This is like they're putting money in, and then I should be able to skyrocket in terms of like leads and people coming in and people wanting to do business with us. And I thought, wow, what a good gameplay. Like not just raising money from them, but from their end of the deal, right? Like they're
So they're gonna have
they're
to.
getting
They got skin in the game, so they're gonna be trying to push their,
yeah,
trying to push their
yeah.
product placement as
Well,
much
they
as
have skin.
possible.
Yeah, I mean they have skin in the game, but they're also very smart about it because they're offering people something they can't get anywhere else. Like if you go to a bank, the bank's just going to give you the money. If you go to a VC firm, they'll help you out and give you the money, but it's not the same, right? This is like a guaranteed marketing execution that is hard to come by because awareness and distribution is one of the main things that you have to solve as you're growing.
Correct.
And these people just solve it for you,
Well,
basically.
the same thing is the whole, what's the best thing that you can probably do? Well, have a product, show it in Shark Tank, get a shark behind you, and then they can definitely,
Yeah, maybe.
take the sponsorship, give you the
Yeah,
money, give you the knowledge, put their name on it, and then they got, quote unquote, not just themselves, they got them and their team to put invest in the game and all that
of
stuff.
course. Of course. Yeah, yeah.
But what I like about it is what you're
Yeah,
saying. It doesn't have to be as much as I have to go to the TV show, produce something, and all that
yeah,
stuff. This is more of like we went to some influencers that have the right ability. We probably just need X amount of capital, which is it's funny because it also takes into like the whole concept of a small business loan. Here to get a small business loan, like an SBA loan, you have to pretty much have a few requirements to apply, and then also you have to justify why you are asking for this small business loan from the government. You get it, great. You don't get it, it happens. But it could be a way for small businesses to really reach out and actually get that 20,000, 30,000, something like that in the realms of something that you can actually do a simple investment to kind of get you through it. And then all you really did was, well, yeah, I get you. Giving equity is not a simple game, but you can definitely get into an easier agreement, you know, contractual agreement
yeah,
than you would do through one or the other.
yeah. So yeah, and what I like about it also is it's most brands, like especially B2B or like more established companies, tend to think, oh, I'm going to find an influencer, I'll pay them X amount per post or whatever, and that'll boost my sales, and that's perfect. And then, I can jump sort of from influencer to influencer, and that's a proven playbook, and that works, and that's fine.
Well,
But this
it
is like a
doesn't
different
work as
level of
often as you would have thought. We've been through that lane before, and you find out that sometimes it does not reflect unless you do have the influencer pretty much on your pocket working for you and promoting your product consistently. There is no way that like hey, my lipstick is going to be used by so and so, and then they put the lipstick, they do it, they use it, they explain it and all that stuff, and then that doesn't immediately relate to sales right away. What I'm hearing is that the influencers that you're talking about are influencers that are really involved and working towards providing knowledge, providing some sort of education benefit, and so on and so forth. This rather than somebody who just hey, I am this is me. I dress very nice, stylish. This is a jacket from so and so. They drop the name, and then let's see if that actually how that permutates and grows. Sometimes it doesn't relate. That
yeah,
that post just stays within the people. Just like in that post, there was never a person who produced it to product. The product placement just doesn't fit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very similar to like George Clooney launching his tequila, and The Rock launching his tequila, and What's this guy's name? Ryan Reynolds.
There are other celebrities that have launched. They just get a tequila and then they promote it, and the tequila is it's just really bad. It's just okay. People are liking it because they're drinking. Ryan Reynolds has gin. His gin is pretty decent gin. But these are people who jumped in the game legitimately, let's say, about 3 or 4 years ago that were interested. The latest ones are just like, Kim Kardashian has a brand of tequila too. I don't want to name brands, but like, yeah, it's kind of like almost drinking Jose Cuervo. It's just not the best for you. That,
Yeah,
and it's good. So yeah, you can actually grab and grab the product and say, hey, why don't you grab it and make it yours and do that? But that is my point of these little stories that it's just getting watered down. People are kind of seeing through the web and saying, you know
yeah,
what, like Kim Kardashian tequila, why or how
yeah.
or how did this get?
But I really think it depends on the person, and it depends on the execution of the team behind it. Like it's still business, right? So execution is like 99% of it, right? The idea is important, but execution is most of it. So they might say, look, I'm the brand, I'll pull in, the market, etc. But in order to have recurring purchases and like, a clientele, you still need to execute. And it might be it might be because of that, or it might be something else. But if we're talking B2B, we're talking about, I don't know, an accountant or an accounting firm, and they want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can find these very niche players. They don't have to have a million followers, but they can have the right type of followers.
And they can also be influencers within their own market. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
like, hey, I'm looking for somebody who grows across the whole United States. I just need them to be influencing South Florida, Central Florida, small town Alabama.
right.
Like,
I think that works for a lot of companies, but I think geography, especially for things like services, for those kind of services, right? Like if you're servicing houses and you're going to clean the pool or whatever, like that's different. But if it's intellectual work and it's services, focusing on your geographic part of the
yeah,
city or county is a tough game, man, because like the person can hire that service from Pakistan all the way to like California, and
I guess.
so
So
you
the
know,
the core point of this is, for example, the local radio DJ. You know, not so much the DJ, but the team that does the morning show. A lot of stations have that, 2 or 3 person team that just do radio show. Those are influencers within their own community, and they do have an outreach. For example, if you wanted to talk about again Central Florida, you can go to these different stations, find the one that has the most, people talking about. You listen to the show. Within the show, there are, it's pretty much like buying a radio packet. You have, this many mentions from the host of the show is going to mention you 3 times, and then you also get a commercial spot done by the host of the show. You see this a lot with like car dealerships. They are, we can say that they are medium-sized businesses in a way. I mean, they do here in this country, they do factor more than $10 million. You know, regularly, like, we're talking about car dealerships that they have established. They do find that local celebrity, and they do pretty much purchase the space, and then they say, you know what, I got my Toyota from Claremont Toyota because blah 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 blah, and they got the great service and all stuff. So now I am relating to you, listening to you every morning. I know what your aspirations. I know who you are. You are my influencer, local influencer, and then I pretty much now I'm gonna get to Claremont Toyota because Isaac told me to do so. Yeah, there is a lot of power on that, but when I go back to what you're talking about, the fact that I would say, okay, well then I did purchase that advertisement. Here's my contractual agreement. But me giving them asset, like what you're saying, which is like no, like give them the opportunity to have skin in the game. You know, I imagine that because they are working through through a radio station, the contract has to be bigger because you have to actually, you probably can that host cannot double dip and say, okay, well, I'm also going to promote me and then also going to promote my companies on the side. I think that you wouldn't be able to do it in radio. But what I like about your saying is that when it comes down to Twitter, social media platforms, you can actually reach out to somebody and again, it's just you're dealing directly with that agent, and then that agent can just do
yeah,
everything.
yeah. And I think there's something to be said about like I buy these sandwiches and they're fantastic. Check them out. To like, this is my business and this is my sandwich shop. And, you know, these, no, no, no. These are like the LeBron sandwiches, like these are, it just feels different from the end of the consumer, of the buyer. It's like, oh, okay, I'm buying from his business. Like it really is his or hers. It's not just like a plug or a recommendation, or I bought my used car from this dealership. It's like, no, no, I own this dealership. Like, come see us, come check us out. I've taken care of all these details. This is a story of why I built it, et cetera, et cetera. Like that has so much more weight than just, I bought this used car here. They both work. It just feels like it's a different level of execution if they're bought into it. But it does have a lot of risk. That's what you're saying, right? Like, you've got to really partner with someone who's good, who is going to, keep their end of the deal and really promote it, who can troubleshoot when things go wrong, who can solve problems, who can actually, like, it's a business partner at the end of the day. It's just their job is to promote and get people in the door, and the job of the operator is to like make sure you can keep up with demand and really fulfill the promise of the business.
It's a marketing.
Anyway, so yeah,
It's like it's you're buying yourself into a marketing boost. And yeah, again, you have to make sure
yeah,
that they are
yeah,
not,
basically.
leaving a fake. So bringing to that, the segue of what I wanted to tell you was that whole, now that we talked about, creating this persona, I did wanted to talk to you about, Taylor Swift. And it's hilarious because when I consume social media, she's in my feed all the time. But she's in my feed all the time, not because, yeah, I know. I can tell you, I can only know one of her songs, and it's great. But she's on my, yeah,
Suspicious.
I'm not even follow her. But it is, but everything that I follow, it's a lot about like economics and, integrity and celebrity and just kind of like sponsorships and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
there was this thing about um, countries and cities looking for Taylor Swift to throw their concert in their location. Because if they actually have a concert, let's say if she throws a concert in Orlando, the economy of the city grows so much just because of
Wow.
restaurants, hotels. It is kind of like a whole concept of like everybody's having a prom night, where people are getting limos, people like the economy of the city
Yeah.
thrives. So you have like Santiago de Chile, you have Rio, like all these cities are really looking to bring her over so that she can do a show. And then of course that just moves masses to get, to this on. And yeah, people need place Uber, places to eat, places to stay. So it just
Yeah.
the economy goes there. So then that's where he started. I'm like, oh no, there is this Taylor Swift effect, and that's it. Like I stopped this, and then all of a sudden watching football, there is a player from the Kansas City. His name is Travis Kelsey. He actually has a brother too that plays for the Eagles, and he pretty much said, hey, you know what, I kind of love to you know kind of like to meet her, and maybe date her. Bum, 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 bum. Story goes, story goes, story goes. She shows up at the game this weekend. Now, the Chiefs are a pretty good team. They won the Super Bowl, not long ago. So they are like, and they have, Mahomes, which is a really good player. So people are watching. She shows up. She is wearing this guy's jersey in the box. Okay, this is coming from puberty, so I don't know how 100% correct is. I do believe that there is an increment, but the data, what they're pretty much saying is that female. Okay, so the impact Taylor Swift had after attending the Kansas City Chiefs game. Female viewership of the game saw at a 63% increase. Travis Instagram grew 600,000 followers. Kelsey podcast rose to number one in Apple. So he has a podcast with his brother, and they talk about football and they talk about, this is a new way professional football players, professional athletes who make money is to have their own podcast. Well, their podcast rose to number one in the whole Apple, and it's just people pretty much jumping on that. Travis Kelsey jersey sales increased by 400%. Each jersey is like $140. Kansas City Chiefs experienced three times increase in home game ticket sales. So this girl just goes, this awesome musician, just goes to to this game and look at this whole effect. Now, you do have to understand that, like, yeah, we're talking about, like, what I was trying to say before, that she's like the poster child. Like she's a really good, she's a great musician. She makes her own music. She is taking control of her production. Yeah, she has a really good head on her shoulders. People love her, like from tweens to kids. So kids are now in college. They all know her. They all live her and all stuff. And she has the best show. They also say, you also have the Beyonce effect. But like, let's just talk about this one in particular. It is great. So then, how does this like? So then, it is awesome. That this is the effect of this individual in your area. We kind of talked a bit about this about Messi before going to the Inter Miami and how he brings a lot of business. But yeah, this is something to be aware of, and I think it's important for businesses that do target anybody, let's say even post 18. So let's not even get into the twins and teens area. We'll just take it, post 18, to understand that there is, that pop and being involved with pop and pop culture is still super super profitable. That you have to figure out a way that you can actually make yourself relatable to, I don't know, it's like particular to Taylor Swift, but you can also be a part or partake in things like that. Maybe have, again, in your local business, you can probably have, I don't know, discussions about this or whatever. But I'm just saying that it is important that you have like the pulse on what's happening in the community, what people are talking about, because it is pretty much what your target market is thinking and it's all about. And the way that I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it is, so how do I get, younger generations to pretty much purchase somebody else's product, somebody else's client's product and all that stuff. So then I have to see how, if this particular story or this particular can be something that I can leverage for my clients.
Those effects are amazing. It's just we're living in a different world in terms of celebrity endorsements and that kind of stuff. It used to be more like maybe there's 150 celebrities you can really get to move the needle. Now it's like sure there's Taylor Swift and The Rock and these huge celebrities, but without going too far, like there's a bunch of people who have between 20,000 and a million followers, and that should be more than enough for a small business. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that's you should be able to grow the business and be and have clients out the door, all day long. People waiting to do business with you.
we
So it just feels like a playbook that's not easy to execute, but nothing in business is
no,
really all that easy to execute. So you might as well give it a
with
shot.
with Compound Digital, we worked directly with The Rock. We did the posting for in China, and Dwayne Johnson is, he in himself is a bunch of little small companies that he pretty much creates and support. Seven Buck Entertainment, now with Teremana, now with Partners Social. But again, these are people who manage. But of course, he is. These are his businesses. You know what you're saying. I still wrapping around myself and saying, what, I have never gone to an agent to to a celebrity and say, hey, would you like, to have skin on the best growing, digital asset company that they have?
And I think so there are several ways to grow a business, right? Like you can acquire other companies. You can obviously you have to market yourself and do then have a unique product and all these things. And the owner or the CEO or the person running it can also become that sort of influencer, that person who can drive more demand. You can pay an influencer and you sort of be on that treadmill where you're paying them all the time and trying to get those boosts, but you're not going to maybe not see consistent growth. You'll see boosts every time you pay them, which is sort of like paying for ads, right? It's the same thing. Or you can just say like, look, I'm gonna figure out a way to make something people really want, because if you look at YC and all these people, like that's the main thing they tell all their entrepreneurs, right? They'll say build something people actually want to use, because what's tricky is people think, oh, I'm going to build this thing and it's going to have this, and then when you press this button, you'll get a bird that sings, and it's like, okay, but are people really going to want that? And it's hard to tell
The
sometimes.
whole concept of like fall in love with a problem, not with a solution that you came up
Yeah,
with.
yeah,
Yeah,
not a solution. Even if you're a large company, like I think large companies make this mistake as well, is that they assume they know what the customer wants, and they start building it. They don't really talk to the users. They don't really talk to the customer, and they end up building the wrong thing, and it's $10 million in the hole because they're big, so they can afford that. Um, and a lot of those bets sort of like if the company is innovative enough, they'll take a lot of those bets. They'll lose a ton, but then when they hit a home run, like they get right, they'll score 1,000 runs. But but I think in general though, it's a smart bet to try and say, okay, how do I secure? There's two sides of the equation, right? There's operations and fulfillment, and there's demand generation. How do I get those two and get those two sides to work? Do we have anything else
Yeah,
for
no,
today?
I was gonna try to bring up the whole concept of the AI influencer that you were talking about. Because what the good thing about the AI influencer that I was thinking the other day is that I am your influencer. Romulo Martinez has to deal with clients. What I wanted to bring up with this concept too was the concept that you brought about the AI influencers that you guys are developing. I think it is great because if I become an influencer, I have to deal with things like my work, my show, my content, my family, my kid might be sick, all of these things. And I have a limited amount of time, resources to study, learn more, be a part of, the community that I need to be involved with and all that stuff. The great thing about AI is that you can set it up so that it learns and learns and learns and learns and just consumes this information so that once you enable it to talk correctly or present everything correctly, that the content that is coming out of it is so probably clear, crisp, and hoping real factual that you can actually have that thing that just kind of works perfectly for you. And then you don't, and again, as we talked about, it's an easy, if I need to unplug it, I can unplug it. I also know that it is correctly managing my brand because I set up the expectations, which you definitely don't have if you go and talk to one of these influencers. Um, I also like to define again what we have talked a lot about, celebrity sponsors and all this stuff, and then being back to the concept of what an influencer is. Um, because again, I gave you the example of I have worked with influencers who you give them a product, they use it once, they use it twice, three times, and then we don't see any sales in the background. We do see that the influencer keeps growing, but it doesn't affect our bottom line as the investor. And I don't think it's the influencer per se. I just think it is just hard sometimes for people just want to see what they're doing, not so much of like, oh, what are the products that these people are using. Um, but I did like the fact that you're saying, there are different types of influencers. This is, I think that this is one good takeaway of this, whole project, which is, you have your celebrity, you have your influencers, as I said, this might be somebody who's a professional chef and it is a product, or you have people who are in the game, as you mentioned, that five influencers that talk about business and talk about small businesses who decide to get together and work with a company and invest in that company to make them grow. So I think that there's different
Yeah.
type of like what an influencer could be, and then it's up to you as a small business owner to say, okay, there is a lot of power in this. What it is that I'm looking for, and again, review all these fears and risks that we kind of talked about.
Yeah. You know what I thought was interesting? I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about. We can put this in the show notes, but it's really interesting. It was with Daniel Priestley. He's an entrepreneur in the UK, and they were talking. And they were sort of talking about how political campaigns can really signal sort of where things are going. And so he gave the example. I think it was Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, going up against I think it's
Yeah,
Nixon, and they did a televised debate, and the people who saw the debate on TV thought Kennedy had won, and the people who thought and the people who heard it on the radio thought Nixon
yeah,
had won. And it turned out that a lot more people were watching it on TV than on the radio, and so JFK won. I mean, it's not the only reason he won, but sort of that's
yeah.
why. And it sort of signaled that TV was the new medium, and that was what you were like. That's where brands needed to move as well, right? Off the radio and into that. And before that, let me just backtrack. Before that, I think it was Roosevelt who ended up having, I think it was like a fireside chat on the radio, and and he and he had that fireside chat, and the radio was basically exploding back then, and he because he had that show, I think it was
Mhm.
weekly. It also sort of he ended up in office and
Are
he
you running
won,
for
etc.
politics,
And
Isaac? Is that why we're doing this?
not at all. And then if you fast forward, I think so. Then there was Obama, right? Who used social media sort of in a new way, and he was there and he had a lot of presence. And these are big budgets,
Yeah.
right? So like it's not like it's a small execution; it's a big execution. So and he ended up winning the presidency. And I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not attributing the win to just that, but it sort of signaled, okay, well, this, maybe brands started saying, oh, maybe we need to be online, maybe be on social media. Look at
So then
what
then
Obama
then
was.
became let's just use the medium and advertise, and we know that other people have won and all that stuff. So yeah, so you're saying like they get it with technology and then they kind of improve.
Yeah, and so with every one of those, like it's signaled, okay, this is the news. This is where the attention is. Like these guys understood it, and now the big brands start to understand it. Maybe some smaller brands have already understood it before and they're executing, but now the big ones sort of enter the game. And the same thing pretty much happened with Trump as well, because of Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah,
Do you remember all
which is
that?
what I'm saying. That I didn't want to say Trump, but yeah, like Cambridge Analytica,
Yeah.
he understood that now that we have these Analytica, we can actually we can actually buy these advertisements, and when I get too political with it, but yeah, like
Yeah. Well, and use data, right, to understand the audience. And so they had these quizzes people would fill
yeah,
out. I feel
and then
anxious
and
when.
then also the lack of filter. They took advantage of the lack of filter of like what is fake news and all these things, and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, um, and so part of what this guy says on the podcast is if I had told you, look, you have a hair salon, and and um, I would have told you, look, in 10 years you're going to be behaving like a media company. You're going to be taking pictures and videos and posting them, worrying about design and how it looks on your page and etc. You wouldn't have believed me. And he thinks, I'm not sure this is right, but he thinks um, in 10 years we're all going to be data companies. We're all going to be like a data analytics company. And of course, the small and medium business is going to be like, I don't, I would never do that. Like, it's not my business. 20 years ago, they were also saying that's not my business. Like, I'm not a media company. And now they're all like, they understand the power of social media, the internet, etc. And if you look at the successful hair salons that are really doing well, I mean, they're posting all the time. They're taking pictures. They're,
No,
they're
they
you know,
have.
they're sort of.
So yeah, we were talking to some people, and they're like, we have an in-house TikTok, Instagram person that comes once a day and
Yeah.
does whatever they need to do.
Right. And so it feels like it's. I don't know if it's telling of what's to come, but I thought it was an interesting thought experiment. Like, okay, maybe we all need to be using data a lot more. It feels though that like what's the way that's really happening is AI, not so much that I'm going to be using more data. It's that I'm going to be
So the,
using the
the thing
machine
is
to
that
help
like when
things
you're
work.
saying data right now, because data is such a big thing. Like, I mean, are you talking about data that's just simply name, demographic, like demographics, your name, your age, your location, marital status, birthdays, like is that the type of data that you want to collect from people? Is that what you're saying? Or
I think it's both. I think that's part of it, but I also think it's like every interaction the customers ever had with
so
us.
if
And
they back to the
you know,
ice cream store, they like chocolate. They have always come here, they always get a chocolate ice cream. Okay. Therefore this person I need to
well, maybe it's a mix, right? And I think that's what AI is going to allow. It's going to be like, okay, these are their demographics. This is where they live. This is their marital status, whatever. This is what they always buy from us. So these product A, B, and C. This is their frequency, but this is also like what they've filled out on these quizzes or um, on these questionnaires. Like look what they've filled out. This is what they are. Da, da, da. These are the people that are following online. These are the, you know what I mean? Like you can build a more complete picture if you put all that data together, but that's very hard to do, especially at scale. So if more than 100 customers, just a single human doing all that is very complex. With AI, you should be able to say, okay, well, let me build cohorts, let me put them in packages. Like I'm going to advertise to these people in this particular way, which is sort of what Trump did, right? With the Cambridge Analytica. They asked all these questions, people would fill them out, and they would group them together and say, okay, these people that are paranoid, anxious, love guns, da da da. Let me, this is what I'm going to show them. But these other people, I'm going to show something else. And so it feels like it's if we were able to gather all the data that actually runs through the business, and then have an AI either build cohorts or say I'm going to build something personalized for this person based on all this data that I have.
There was a point that I thought that we could make Create 180 more of a research company, and I think that I love it because it does show. Once you have the numbers, it really shows that. There was a time where we worked in Lexus, an Lexus Toyota program in China, and we did it. And what we did was pretty much a drip style campaign. It was email marketing. But there are things that you need to know about email marketing. People like it when it's like, "Hey, Zach, we saw that you from the hey Zach, we saw that you were shopping, but you didn't end up buying anything from our store. Is there any questions? Come talk to me." That's one of the basic ones. The other one was pretty much, "Hey Zach, we saw that you bought the tires for the bike, but I didn't see you buying the pump. Would you be interested in buying the pump for this?" So then it was like, "Oh, I am receiving from this company this in particular." Or it could be like, "Hey Zach, we saw that you bought. Thank you for buying a bike from us. This is your year anniversary. Have you had the opportunity to get it tuned up? Right now, it's a great opportunity for you to get it tuned up. Come to our store." So you could divide people into different groups that have gone to your store, and then manage that. But yeah, that is it's great marketing, but it's very labor intensive, as you're saying. Like as a human, you have to like really like, okay, so this is that, but yeah, I think you're hitting in the nail. If that automation can be done for smaller scale businesses, then you're making it. Because again, if I could tell you, yeah, I know that again, ice cream shop. I can tell you that Isaac shows up with himself and two of his family members. Then I can tell that he always orders the vanilla. His wife always orders the chocolate. His kid always orders, the mint. And I have had this, for a long time. Then I can say, "Hey, have you heard of our new mint cookie chocolate ice cream, which would be perfect for so and so?" And you'll be like, yeah, that sounds definitely along the aisles of this individual. Which comes to the other portion, which was that people are like, well, advertisement is so intrusive now because they know exactly what it is that I want to talk about or what I want. And then on the other side of the flip coin is like, yeah, well, I prefer to, if I'm going to get advertised ad, or if I'm going to get receive advertisement, I want to receive advertisement of products that I might actually consider using.
Yeah, and it's not just advertising. Like it could be something that's interesting to you as well. Like, why 80% of people love chocolate. Maybe you get that, and like maybe that's an interesting article that you read, and it reminds you, oh,
It makes you
this ice cream
hungry.
shop is I love. Makes you hungry, makes you crave it. I've always thought that all these TV commercials that are showing hamburgers during like
7
whenever I'm
7
watching a
p.m.
football game, right? Like at the end of the day, they don't necessarily always drive business to their brand. All I'm seeing is a yummy hamburger online. I mean, on TV, and that makes me maybe the next day I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm craving a hamburger, and we'll go buy it wherever we usually go buy it. But the craving started because I saw it on TV, not because it was attached to some brand. And I think,
I was gonna say that the
and so
tail
I,
end of it is then you get the that hey, hey Zach, have you lost your diet? Come back to the gym. Kind of one of those. It goes from the pizza
yeah,
commercial all the way to you feeling bad, all the way to like let's eat healthy kind of thing. Just-
yeah, let's work out again. Yeah. Um, I just it feels like it's not, but we're talking about marketing and advertising and content, but it's not just that. Like, let me give you another example. Like, let's say we're B2B, right? So we sell to other client to big, large, medium to large corporations, etc. And to sell them, it takes a lot of meetings. We have to talk. We have to meet several times. They go over it. We talk again. We show them what we can do, etc. And B2B, but it just takes time.
yeah,
Like
you
these companies
you're moving a bunch of the small departments into making an agreement, and then execution also
Yeah.
takes them to figure out which departments will be taking part of that execution. So yeah, B2B, it's moving, it's rolling a
Yeah.
rock. Yeah.
Complex. Yeah, you have to roll on. I mean, what's good is the contracts are a little bigger. It's consumer to consumer. You have to reach every single person. Like here's like okay, I'm talking to the marketing department of this company, and if they buy, then okay, cool. Then we'll have it maybe for a year, etc. But so I was thinking like, what would happen if we record every conversation we have with the client? Obviously, by telling the client we're going to record this. But let's say we record everything, we feed that into a machine. The machine does the transcript, and then does a summary that goes into our CRM. And then if I were to say, okay, I need to draft an email for a follow up, or I need to draft, maybe I need to write an article saying this is why you should work with us. And I have the information that's on their website. I have every conversation I've ever had with them. I have all the emails we've exchanged. I have all this data, but I'm not using that right now. Like I mean, the human does because you remember the meeting. You sort of go into like, oh, these are the main points that concern them. But if you had an AI, manage all that information and process it, then you can ask the AI, okay, I need an email convincing
Or
them,
you
or I
can
need
ask
an
the AI, like, per prior executions of this type of business, how likely are they going to go with me as a client?
yeah, or maybe just yeah. I mean, but I think there are AIs that already do that. But I'm thinking like, what if it can ingest all this data, and even beyond our data and our conversations with that client, you could also ingest like what is the company doing, what are their in their PR statements, what are they launching, what new things are they like. You can mix all of that together and then say, and you can use, for example, we extract data from the audience, like from what their digital behavior is like, what they're consuming, what they're talking about, all these topics. You can add that plus what the company's doing, plus all the data you have, and with all of that, then you can craft a really good email, right? Or a closing offer, or an article, or you know what I mean, or a video script that then you then show them online. I think there's going to be a lot of power behind those AIs that are able to like consume a lot of data and actually make sense of it and then help you out. I think that's going to be sort of like the next step of where
I
that's
think
going.
that sound means that we leveled up. We got a
Yeah.
mushroom, and now we're bigger. Now I can go fight. No, this is a really cool
We,
conversation, because then you are making it more valuable, just the fact of having an AI and then having all of this content. I think
yeah.
I think being able to control that data and manage that data appropriately, it's just in itself, I mean, I imagine that's pretty much what your business comes from for a lot of these things, because
Yeah. 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 I think the reason we've thought of that is because we extract data from the audience and we're analyzing that and we're using AI to analyze that data. But we're also training a bot so it knows what Castleberry is and what we do and the products and services. And then there's data from like the market. So what's happening in the market, or maybe there's data from the company. Like there's all these data sources. But if we were able to train one bot on all of that, that bot would actually be a lot more useful than ChatGPT, or a lot more useful than you know what I mean,
I
like than
agree.
the most
I
advanced.
think the only downside to it is how on top of their game your client is with their digital presence. And this is very important, because what happens is that, imagine if you get, oh, we had the, hey, we had our bot look into your whole website, so we know exactly what you're selling. You are selling, what your biggest market right now, per the bot and per the industry and all that stuff, is search engine optimization, SEO. We know that you're selling it because in your website it says that you sell SEO, and it is from all of this important information from the AI and all stuff. This is what you need to focus your market on. And then you say, oh, yeah, well, at this moment we're not offering SEO anymore because of X, Y, and Z. So then you go in there, prepare for battle, and all of a sudden they had like a trebuchet. And then you're like, okay, I am done because I was not expecting them to have,
Yeah,
them to have that. But
yeah. But that's true. But if you're in B2B, like it's our
yeah,
case, we would use that bot after we have a few conversations with the
oh yeah,
client
you kind of,
because we're
yeah, you will channel it.
yeah, and so, yeah, you're narrowing it down. Um, anyway, it's a thought experiment. Like we're not
Yeah,
building
yeah.
this yet. We have parts. It's just a matter of saying, okay, can we actually put all those parts together and build something that in the end could be useful? Because it sounds awesome. It sounds like okay, you can grab data from all these sources, but then like, is the execution a lot better than just using a traditional AI and saying, I
Or,
want to talk to
or
this person about
or
this,
or you
drafting.
or you end up saying like, "Hey, grandma, here's your phone. Look, you can send text message. You can record yourself for doing the run. You can change the channel on the TV. You can blah 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 blah. This is all the smartphone can do." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Can I call you on the phone?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can call me on the phone. Okay, thank you. That's all I really needed." And it's like, no, no, no.
oh,
But look, you can actually do everything that you needed out of this particular phone. Oh, okay, great.
you can pay your back bills. You can pay your bills. You can do like, and she's
Yeah.
grandma. Yeah, 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 for sure. And I think it requires a lot of iteration and actually understanding. Okay, well, this actually does do a really good job. My feeling is it will, um, and I think it the value isn't just like give me an email and give me an article. The value will also be in tell me about this client. What are the probabilities we close? What else can I sell them? What are the problems they're facing? What other products can I build? Like you can have a conversation with the AI about that client that you want to
Yeah, you can bounce
help.
ideas out of it. Again, I think a
Yeah.
lot of it deals with I with my medium-sized businesses, a lot of them is just transparency. Like how much can you even on the first three meetings that you have with these individuals, they'll take 10 to close the business, 6 to close the business. On the first three, like how transparent were they were really about X, Y, and Z. You know, so you always have that. I mean that's human nature. You always have that like human person. But I do like the fact that you can actually even just create a modeling because if you actually can model things, you at least know where you have a better aim to where you need to go. So I think that's a good that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
direct you. You know what? I'll take for me. I'll take things about like what would you do if you had more data? I think that's a good takeaway of
Yeah.
this. Like, what could you be able to do if you had more data?
Yeah. More data and the partnerships.
Yeah, the partnerships are great. Just finding the two things, finding a right partner or finding a right, or if you do find the right partner, or if you're looking to have somebody do a spokesperson or, with renters and celebrities and all stuff, like if they represent, well, your brand. But the fact that you can actually just go up to them and like, never thought about like knocking on the door. Hey, I know that you produce this. What about if we just suddenly produce this for you and you happen to
Yeah.
do this?
That's one way. Yeah. Or, let's try it out and then how much do you charge? And if it works, you want to be a partner, come invest.